There is a version of you that signs every defeat in advance, the one that apologizes before anyone complains, the one that says it's okay when it isn't, the one that feels the hit, folds fast, and calls it being realistic. That version isn't evil, it's just trained. It learned to survive by shrinking, agree quickly, ask for little, expect less. It kept you alive in rooms where power was one-sided. But now that same version is strangling everything you say you want. You DM about discipline, power, dark psychology, hustle. Then that weak identity walks into the actual situation and throws your plans in the trash. You say you'll set a boundary. They frown once. You smile and say, no worries. You say you'll raise your price. They hesitate. You instantly offer a discount before they even ask. You say you'll stop chasing people. They take longer to reply. You double text, triple text, spin your whole day around them. This isn't a mindset problem, it's a role problem. Your body has one default mask when pressure shows up. Submissive, eager, soft on yourself in private, and soft for everyone else in public. That is the weak version. Machiavelli watched rulers and citizens do the same thing. Cling to old habits when the world had already moved on. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Your times have changed. The rooms you want to enter now don't reward the version of you that bows first and thinks later. If you walk in with that same wiring, you don't just lose deals or respect, you lose years. Kill here is not about your body, it's about killing a script. You're not harming yourself. You're retiring a role that no longer deserves to run your life. The weak version has a pattern. It always shows up in the same three ways. 1. How it talks to you. You always mess it up. They'll leave if you say that. You're lucky they even answer. This voice doesn't correct you. It breaks you before anyone else gets the chance. 2. How it moves your body. Shoulders slightly forward. Voice a bit higher when you're under pressure, laughing when you're not amused, just to smooth the air, saying it's fine while every muscle is saying it isn't. 3. How it spends your time. Hours stalking, checking, waiting for answers. Minutes for your work, seconds for your standards. You feed everyone else's comfort first, then wonder why you're starving. Killing that version means this. You stop letting it speak for you when it matters. You don't heal it, you override it. You strip it of authority over your posture, your tone, your calendar. Start by catching its entrances. You're about to send a message. You reread it 10 times, deleting every firm line until only softness remains. That's the weak version doing PR for your fear. You're in a conversation. You disagree, but your mouth says, yeah, true, while your jaw is tight. That's the weak version choosing approval over truth. You get an unfair request. Instead of saying no, you say, it's okay, I'll manage, and then silently hate them and yourself. That's the weak version trading respect for temporary peace. You don't need therapy-level analysis to spot it. Your body tells you every time, a twist in your stomach right after you say yes. A headache after conversations where you never actually spoke your mind. A heavy, drained feeling after doing favors nobody would do for you. Each of those is not random. It's a receipt. Your nervous system is telling you, we just betrayed ourselves again. The dark rebirth starts with a simple cruelty. You stop calling that betrayal kindness. It is not kind to agree to things you resent. It is not kind to hide your real opinion until your life is unrecognizable. It is not kind to protect everyone from discomfort while burning your own future down. That version of you lives on 3 fuels: fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, fear of standing out. If someone withdraws attention, it panics. If someone raises an eyebrow, it retreats. If someone might not like the real you, it sends a softer double to take your place. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." You don't need people to fear you. but you do need them to fear losing access to you if they treat you cheaply. The weak version of you makes that impossible because it never leaves. It stays, explains, forgives, excuses, on loop. So, the first cut is not dramatic. You don't announce it. You don't make a speech on social media about new me. You do something colder. You let one small, weak behavior die and you don't revive it. You stop sending the second paragraph where you over-explain why you said no. You stop chasing people who consistently answer you when they are bored, not when they are free. You stop softening every sentence with, "if that's okay," at the end. The weak version will scream in your head the first time you do this. They'll think you're rude. They'll replace you. They'll leave. Let it shout. Do not move. This is where the dark rebirth separates from motivational fluff. You don't wait for that voice to disappear. You act with it still screaming. You let it die of starvation, not negotiation. Every time you hold a boundary while that inner panic is live, you cut off one of its oxygen lines. You also watch how people react. Some will back off, adjust, and start treating you like a real person instead of a service. Others will get angry, guilt trip, or vanish. That pain is the price of rebirth. You're clearing everyone whose relationship depended on you staying weak. There is one line you don't cross. You never turn this into self-harm. Killing the weak version is not about hating your existence. It's about hating the pattern that keeps strangling your future. If your thoughts ever slide into real self-harm, "I don't deserve to be here. Everyone would be better off without me." That's not rebirth. That's a crisis. That's where you reach out to a professional, a trusted person, or a helpline where you live. You don't handle that alone. The rebirth you're building is colder, cleaner, simpler. Same face, different posture. Same life, different answers. Same fear, different actions. You're not waiting for a new personality to spawn. You're executing an old role and promoting a new one every time you choose discomfort over self-betrayal. The weak version of you doesn't disappear because you decided once. It survives by changing masks. The moment you push back, it stops calling itself weak and starts calling itself polite, humble, realistic, understanding, same submission, better marketing. You say no once, feel guilty, and it whispers, "You're being selfish." You hold a boundary, they sigh, and it whispers, "You're becoming cold." You stop chasing, someone pulls away, and it whispers, "See? Nobody stays unless you bend." If you don't learn to recognize that voice, you'll kill the old costume and keep the same actor. Machiavelli understood this game in politics. The enemy that smiles is more dangerous than the one that shouts. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. That's your rule now. You promised the world you'd always be available, always flexible, always the soft landing. That promise may have been a necessity of your past. The present has different requirements. You are allowed to break that old word in favor of survival. Start with language. The weak version's biggest weapon is your mouth. It makes you apologize for existing. "Sorry, this might be stupid, but..." "Sorry, just a quick thing." "Sorry if this is too much." You cut that habit at the root. You replace sorry with clear openings. Question. Quick thing. One request, short, neutral. No apology baked in. The first few times, your chest will tighten like you've done something violent. You haven't. You've simply removed the kneel from your sentences. Next, you hunt softeners. The weak version hides behind them. Only if that's okay? Unless it's too much trouble. If not, no worries at all. Delete them. Say the sentence naked. "I can't do that by Friday. I charge X for that scope. I'm not available then." Let the silence after those lines exist. That silence is where the weak version used to panic and start juggling. You don't juggle anymore. You stand there and let the other person reveal who they are when you're not bending. Now you move to behavior. The weak version has reflexes. You replace them one by one. Reflex. Instant reply even when you're busy, tired, or annoyed. Replace with deliberate delay. You see the message. Your body leaps to answer. You stop. You put the phone down. You let 10 minutes pass. Then you answer from choice, not from fear they'll leave if you don't jump. Reflex. Over-explaining your no. Replace with one line. I can't do that. I don't do that kind of work. That doesn't work for me. If they push, you can add one more line. Not a paragraph, not a biography. The weak version is addicted to paragraphs. It tries to justify the right to exist. You're cutting that addiction. Machiavelli wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." Command in your life is not about shouting. It's about speaking in lines that end, not in spirals that never land. When your sentences have no endpoint, people feel it and walk over you. Now look at your calendar. The weak version loves maybe. Maybe we can talk then. I'll try to squeeze it in. I'll see what I can do. That maybe is how you donate your future to other people's whims. You replace it with concrete borders. I'm free at 3 or 5. Choose one. I'm booked that day. These are the next options. I don't do calls after X time. The first time you send a message like that, your stomach will twist. The weak version will show you a slideshow of people rolling their eyes, calling you difficult, calling you selfish. Let it play. Do not undo the message. There's another place the weak version hides: generosity. It makes you overgive where nobody has ever earned it. Free work, endless emotional labor, discounts, last-minute changes. I'll just do it this once. You don't stop being generous. You change the conditions. You link extra to respect. They respect your time, show up when they say, pay on time, speak to you decently. Fine. They get a little extra now and then. They ghost, push, guilt trip, or treat you like a spare part. No extras. Full rate, clear boundaries, or nothing. You stop feeding your need to feel like a good person by bleeding for people who would never do the same. The weak version will call this becoming selfish. It's lying. Selfish people want all the benefit for none of the effort. You're doing the opposite, matching effort to access. Now you deal with your circle. Some people only like you weak. They like you apologizing. They like you always free. They like you saying yes because you're scared they'll leave. The second you change, they will react. You'll hear, "You've changed. You're colder now. You're so distant lately." Translate that. You're harder to control. You're making me take responsibility. You're not giving me free comfort anymore. You don't fight those complaints. You treat them as classification. You move those people outward in your life. Fewer replies, slower responses, no more private access to your energy. If someone genuinely cares, they'll adjust to your new terms. They might be confused at first, but they'll talk. They'll ask. They'll respect your no, even if it surprises them. If they only love the weak version, they'll either try to drag it back or they'll disappear. Let them. A rebirth without losses is fantasy. Machiavelli wrote, "The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar." Most people around you only ever saw the appearance, the easy one, the available one, the endlessly flexible one. When that appearance dies, they panic because they never bothered to know the real you. You are not obligated to keep living as a prop, so they never have to update their picture. There is one line you don't cross in this killing. You do not turn the knife inward. You do not punish your body. You do not hurt yourself to teach yourself a lesson. If your thoughts ever turn to real self-harm, I don't deserve to live. I should disappear. It would be better if I was gone. That is not transformation. That is crisis. That's where you drop the solo act and reach out. Therapist, counselor, doctor, trusted person, or a helpline where you live. Dark rebirth is about killing patterns, not killing you. Everything you're doing now is replacement. replacing apology with clarity, replacing chasing with standards, replacing people who love your weakness with people who can handle your strength. The weak version will not walk away voluntarily. You will feel it every time you type a short message instead of a novel. Every time you say no and don't sugarcoat it. Every time you stop explaining yourself to someone who's already decided not to understand. You are not waiting for that inner panic to stop. You're letting it burn itself out while your new behavior stays firm. That's the dark part. You accept that rebirth feels like betrayal to the old you. You do it anyway. You can't just kill one version of yourself and then leave the throne empty. If you don't install a new ruler, the old one will crawl back, put on a different outfit, and sit down like it never left. That's why most new me phases die in 2 weeks. You get a spike of anger, say a few hard no's, cut a few people off, and then the vacuum opens. No rules, no structure, no standard. The weak version returns, now dressed in, "I'm just tired. I don't care anymore. Whatever happens, happens." Same surrender, less effort. Machiavelli wrote about cities that love their old freedom. He who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it can expect to be destroyed by it. Your old way of living is that city. Soft habits, weak speech, endless self-betrayal. That was freedom for the weaker version of you. If you don't destroy its power structure, it will destroy your new one. Not overnight. Slowly, quietly. One small compromise at a time. So you don't just remove behaviors, you build laws, not motivational quotes. Laws. Short, cold, repeatable rules. Your life has to respect or pay a price. Start with 3 domains: how you spend time, how you speak, who gets access. Time first, because the weak version lived on stolen hours. Its pattern was simple. Your prime time, morning focus, clean energy, went to distractions, to other people's moods, to scrolling through people who don't know you exist. Your tired scraps, late nights, burned brain, went to your own work, your body, your plans. Rebirth flips that. You take the first clean block of the day and declare it off limits to the old you. No people-pleasing, no pointless checking, no chasing. That block belongs to building something that moves your life. You don't need a billionaire routine. You need one ruthless rule. For the first block, I output before I absorb. You write before you check. You build before you scroll. You push your body before you feed your brain junk. The weak version will try to bargain. Just 5 minutes of this video, then we'll start. That's the voice that loses years in 5-minute chunks. You cut it off. No negotiations in that block. Next domain, speech. The weak version used your mouth to sign contracts your soul never agreed to. Sure, I can do that. It's fine, don't worry. No problem, I'll figure it out. And every time, your chest dropped right after you said it. That drop is your internal courtroom shouting, "We didn't consent." Your new law for speech is brutal and simple. I do not say yes while my body is saying no. If your stomach twists, your throat tightens, or your chest feels heavy right as you're typing or talking, you don't push through it. You pause. You buy time. Lines like, "I need to check my schedule. I'll think about that and let you know. I can't commit to that right now." You're not dragging decisions forever. You're refusing to let panic write your future. The weak version panicked and filled the silence. The new one lets the silence breathe and makes a decision from a spine that's standing up, not folded. Then comes access. The weak version handed out front row passes to anyone who made noise. People who drain you, people who belittle you, people who remember you only when they need a favor. They got instant replies, late-night emotional support, daytime focus. Meanwhile, the people and projects that actually deserve you got leftovers. Your new law is tiered. Inner circle, people who respect your time and your boundaries, who show up for you, who don't panic when you say no. They get speed, honesty, presence. Middle circle, normal contacts. They get respect, but not your life force. Replies in windows, not on demand. Outer circle. People who only pull, never give. They get slow answers, simple answers, or no access at all. You never say this out loud. You live it. You move people between circles based on behavior, not history, not guilt, not fantasy. Machiavelli wrote, "A prudent man always tries to follow in the footsteps of great men and imitate those who are most excellent." The great men in your case aren't influencers. They're the future version of you who doesn't flinch every time someone gets disappointed. You imitate that one. Less explaining, more sorting. Now you add a darker layer, consequences. The weak version made threats to itself and never enforced them. If they do that again, I'm done. I'm never working late for them again. Next time, I'll say no. Next time came. You folded. Your nervous system learned a lesson. Your bluff. You erase that reputation by quietly enforcing one consequence at a time. Someone disrespects your boundary after you were clear, access moves down a circle. Less time, less energy, less availability. No fight, no speech, just demotion. A client refuses to honor terms you agreed on. You stop doing extras. Deliver what's written, nothing more. If they keep pushing, you end the engagement. You yourself break a promise you made to you. You don't spiral in self-hate. You narrow the next promise instead of expanding it. I'll work out 6 times a week becomes, I'll move my body 4 times this week for 20 minutes. I'll wake up at 5 every day becomes, I'll guard one morning block fiercely. You make commitments your nervous system can actually keep under stress. Then you keep them so consistently that the weak version of you starts to feel like a stranger when it tries to speak. There's a trap here, overcorrection. You might feel the new hardness and go too far. No warmth, no flexibility. You confuse boundaries with punishment. Suddenly you're cutting people off not because they're bad for you, but because you're scared of being seen as soft. That's not rebirth, that's cosplay. The point isn't to become an ice statue. The point is to become someone who can choose softness without collapsing and choose hardness without cruelty. So you keep one more law. I do not use my new strength to recreate my old pain in other people. You don't ghost people who are honest with you. You don't humiliate anyone for expecting the old version of you. You don't weaponize your silence to control the ones who never tried to control you. You simply stop offering what you can't sustainably give. You tell the truth, faster. You allow others to be disappointed without sprinting in to fix their feelings. There's still a non-negotiable safety line. If you notice your thoughts drifting into real self-harm, fantasizing about disappearing, imagining hurting yourself, thinking constantly that everyone would be better if you were gone, that is not dark rebirth. That's a red alert. You don't handle that with Machiavelli quotes and routines. You handle it with help, a therapist, counselor, doctor, trusted person, or a helpline where you live. You are not a failed project. You're a human being, and serious pain needs serious support. Rebirth here is about execution, not destruction. You execute. The instinct to apologize for existing, the habit of saying yes while your body screams no, the pattern of explaining your worth instead of living it. And you promote the version that guards time like a resource, not a rumor. The version that speaks in clear lines, not nervous paragraphs. The version that treats access to you as something people earn, not something they are entitled to. At first, it feels fake. Of course it does. You've been rehearsing the weaker role for years. Any new role feels like acting. The difference is that this time, the script moves you somewhere you actually want to live. You don't wait for the feeling to match the behavior. You let the behavior drag the feeling there. Scene after scene, call after call, message after message, the crowd around you will have its opinions. You're different. You're harder now. You're not as available. Good. That means the weak version isn't running your life in the background anymore. The only real question left is simple. Will you keep acting like the old you because it makes other people more comfortable? Or will you let that version die loudly in their memory so the real one has a chance to exist? The old version of you doesn't just die, it grieves itself. The first time you don't reply instantly, you feel it pacing in your chest. The first time you don't over-explain a no, it claws at your throat. The first time you don't rescue someone from their own feelings, it whispers, "You're a bad person now." That voice is not you. It's a leftover system trying to keep its job. For years it protected you from rejection by bending first. Now you're firing it. Of course it's screaming. Machiavelli warned what happens when you introduce a new order. There is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. You're not just changing a habit, you're introducing a new order of things inside your own life. The danger isn't outside. It's the temptation to run back to the old structure the second it gets uncomfortable, so you don't rely on motivation. You build a small, cold internal government. 3 branches: your law, the rules you already started writing; your court, how you judge your own behavior; your enforcement, what actually happens when you or others cross the line. The weak version hated all 3. It ran on vibes, guilt, and "I'll do better next time." Next time never came. Now the law is written. No yes while your body says no. No apologies for existing. No chasing people who consistently demonstrate you're low on their list. The court sits at night. It's not emotional, it's forensic. You look back at the day and ask, where did I act like the old me? Where did I act like the one I'm becoming? No poetry, just scenes. You remember the call where you said, "Yeah, that's fine," and your stomach dropped. Old you. You remember the text where you said, "I'm not available then," and didn't add a paragraph. New you. You remember the conversation where you laughed at something that actually bothered you. Old. You remember the moment you said, "I don't like that," and let the silence sit. New. You're not looking for perfection, you're tracking trend. More scenes ruled by the new code, fewer by the old. That's progress. Enforcement is where dark rebirth actually happens. When you catch yourself behaving like the weak version, you don't perform a self-execution, you perform a correction. You overcommitted? You don't punish yourself all week. You send one follow-up message. I said yes too quickly. I can't do X, but I can do Y. You let someone speak to you in a way you hate. Next time they try, you don't be nicer. You say, "I'm not okay with that tone. We can talk when it's calmer." You answered instantly to someone who only texts when they need something. Next time, you don't. Response drops from instant to hours, then to seen when convenient. Access slides down a tier, quietly. This is how the weak version loses power. Not in one dramatic night, but by 1,000 enforced corrections. Your environment will push back. Not because they're evil, but because they were benefiting from the discounts your old self gave. Family who always expected you to drop everything will guilt trip you. People who loved trauma dumping into your DMs at 3 a.m. will call you distant. Colleagues who used you as a safety net will call you not a team player the first time you say no. You don't debate your right to change. You let your new behavior repeat until it becomes boring. Boring is the goal. When your boundaries become part of the background, people either adjust or quietly remove themselves. Both outcomes clean the room. Machiavelli understood how people really react when you stop sacrificing yourself for them. Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Most won't remember the nights you stayed up helping, the times you bent, the discounts you gave. They will remember the moment the benefits stopped. Don't chase their memory. Let them be angry at losing what they were never entitled to. There's a risk here. In killing the weak version, you might be tempted to replace it with a cartoon villain. No replies ever. No care, no softness for anyone. That's not power, that's fear with armor on. You're just reacting to your old self, not choosing a new one. Rebirth looks different. You keep three capacities alive. You can care without obeying every demand. You can be generous without bleeding. You can be soft by choice, not by default. You don't stop helping. You start choosing who, when, and how much. You still pick up the phone at midnight for the friend who has shown up for you consistently. You don't pick it up for the person who only remembers your number during their latest drama. You still say yes to something that costs you time if it deeply matters to someone in your inner circle. You don't say yes to keep fake peace with someone who doesn't respect your no. You still bend sometimes, but you bend on purpose, not as reflex. You can write it down. I'm making an exception here and why. That level of clarity keeps you from sliding back into, I always have to be the one who gives in. You also stop feeding the weak version with secret rituals, checking if they watched your story, rereading old chats, stalking who they're with now, running imaginary arguments in your head where you finally say everything. Every one of those is free advertising for the past. You're lobbying for a role you claim you want to kill. You cut those loops like you cut weak sentences. You don't negotiate them down, you replace them. Eyes go to your work, not their page. Hands go to your project, not your chat history. Mind goes to what you're building, not to how much they value you this week. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to let caring run your calendar and nervous system. And there is always the safety line. If this process is dragging you into serious darkness, constant thoughts of self-harm, fantasies about hurting yourself so people finally understand, ideas that the world would be better without you, that is not dark rebirth. That's your pain asking for real help. No script replaces that. You reach out to a therapist, a counselor, a doctor, someone you trust, or a helpline in your country. Killing the weak version of you is about ending patterns, not ending a life. What you're really doing is changing who sits on the throne when pressure walks in. Before, it was the one who said, give them whatever they want, just don't let them be upset. Now it's the one who says, we can lose people, we can't lose ourselves. The outside changes last. People will still talk to you like you're the old you for a while. They'll expect you to fold where you used to. They'll test if the rebirth is real or just a phase. You don't argue. You don't give speeches about how you've changed. You answer the same test with the same new behavior until they believe the evidence more than their memory. The weak version dies in their minds the day they realize. You don't reply like you did. You don't over-explain like you did. You don't bend like you did, and you don't come back like you used to. That's the dark side of this. Once you walk out of certain roles, there is no clean way back in, but that's the point. You're not remodeling the old cage. You're walking out and locking the door behind you. One day, you react late. A message comes in that would have sent you into overthinking. You see it, feel the spike, and nothing breaks. You don't rush to answer. You don't rehearse 3 versions in your head. You don't build a whole fantasy around their mood. You just breathe once, finish what you were doing, and reply when it actually makes sense. That's how rebirth really shows up. Not in fireworks, in quiet non-events. Moments where the old you would have panicked, and the new you is boringly calm. The drama didn't vanish from life. It just stopped being your default posture. You didn't get here by accident. You've been cutting away weak behaviors, enforcing small laws, and refusing to rescue every feeling in the room. Now you start living like this is permanent, not a phase. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last." You've tasted both. You know what it's like to realize, hours later, I shouldn't have said yes, I shouldn't have apologized, I shouldn't have chased. Dark rebirth is simply doing, in the moment, what the old you used to realize too late. You solidify this version with 3 anchors: your numbers, your rituals, and your standards. Numbers first, because emotion lies, data doesn't. You track a few small counts, not your feelings about them. How many times you said no and didn't over-explain? How many times you delayed a reply instead of jumping instantly? How many times you refused to fix other people's moods for free? How many times you worked on your own project before touching anyone else's? You don't need a perfect system. A simple note in your phone is enough. Today, 3 clean no's, 2 delayed replies, 1 hard conversation stayed calm. You're proving to yourself that this isn't an aesthetic. It's behavior. The weak version of you lives on vibes and guilt. The new one lives on evidence. When your old self starts hissing, "You're still the same, you haven't changed," you have receipts. Then you lock in your rituals. Mourning isn't about being inspired anymore. It's about choosing who you are before the world tries to choose for you. You keep one non-negotiable, some version of building before begging. Before you scroll, you build. Before you chase, you create. Before you worry about who hasn't replied, you move one thing that is actually yours: work, skill, body, system. This doesn't have to be hours. It can be 20 to 30 minutes. But it happens every day the same way a king holds court, whether he feels like it or not. You are teaching your nervous system that your life does not orbit around other people's attention. You also keep a shutdown ritual. The old version of you went to bed full of unfinished loops, conversations you rehearsed, replies you crafted and deleted, fantasies about, "One day I'll finally stand up for myself." Your nervous system never clocked out. Now at the end of the day, you do a quick reset. One thing you enforced, a boundary you held, a no you kept. One thing you messed up, a moment you folded or over-explained. One adjustment for tomorrow, shorter promise, clearer line, slower reply. No drama, no "I'm trash," just course correction. You sleep as someone steering, not someone being dragged. Finally, your standards. The weak version of you wanted to be chosen. That's why it bent so easily. Every interaction was secretly an audition. Pick me as the good one, the loyal one, the easy one. The reborn version doesn't audition, it interviews. You don't walk into rooms thinking, "I hope they like me." You walk in asking, "Do they qualify for my time?" That shift is not about arrogance. It's about survival. You have limited energy. The old pattern was giving that energy to whoever yelled, cried, or charmed the loudest. Now you quietly check. Do they listen when I speak? Or just wait to talk? Do they respect my no, or treat it like a negotiation? Do they show up when I need help, or only when they need something? People who fail that test don't get your center. Not because you hate them, but because the new order of your life doesn't budget for that drain. You can be polite at a distance. Not everyone earns the full version of you. Machiavelli said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." Command in your world is quiet. It's the way you answer, the way you schedule, the way you walk away when something is beneath the standard you set. You don't shout your power, you schedule it. You don't announce your worth, you protect it. There's always a risk that this flips into self-destruction. If you catch your thoughts sliding from "I'm done being weak" into "I don't deserve to exist," that is not transformation. That's a red flag. If you're sitting there thinking about hurting yourself, fantasizing about disappearing, telling yourself everyone would be better off without you, that isn't dark rebirth, it's serious pain. Pain like that doesn't get fixed by quotes or routines. That's when you step outside the solo game and bring in real help, a therapist, counselor, doctor, someone you trust, or a helpline in your country. Killing the weak version of you is about ending patterns, not ending your life. Day to day, the reborn version looks almost plain from the outside. You answer slower, you say less. You hold your spine straighter when people push. You stop explaining your every move. People who were addicted to the old you will call this cold. Let them. They were warm only as long as you kept bleeding. They're not qualified to judge the temperature of your new life. Others will quietly draw closer. The ones who are always uncomfortable watching you get used. The ones who respect boundaries because they live by their own. They're not dazzled by your glow up. They're relieved your inside finally matches the strength they saw buried under all that apology. The weak version of you will still knock sometimes. You'll hear it when you're tired, lonely, or scared of losing someone. Maybe just this once, say yes. Maybe just this once, reply fast. Maybe just this once, drop your rate, cancel your plans, swallow your anger. You don't argue with it anymore. You don't explain. You just don't open the door. You let the urge rise, peak, and pass while your actions stay aligned with the new script. That's the real kill shot. Not rage, not revenge, not loud promises. Just refusal to behave like the old you even when your feelings beg for it. In the end, dark rebirth is simple. You stop calling self-betrayal love. You stop calling fear humility. You stop calling exhaustion loyalty. You keep your warmth, but you put steel underneath it. You keep your empathy, but you stop spending it on people who treat you like an option. You keep your heart, but you stop handing it to anyone who asks. The weak version of you dies the day your actions stop protecting it. The new version lives every time you choose the harder line over the easier collapse. And if you stay with that long enough, you won't need to say, "I've changed." Rooms will feel it. People will adjust or leave. Your own body will recognize you.